Welcome to Poland Daily History with me, Nicholas Richardson. In the previous episode, we began to discuss the start of the romance between the political prisoners, Wiesława Pajdak and Jerzy Śmiechowski, who met each other while incarcerated in the infamous Mokotów prison in Warsaw in 1947, at the zenith of Stalinist terror in Poland. In this episode, we will look into how Wiesława took a leap of faith and sent a Morse code message through the wall to the person sitting in the cell next to hers, and how from there they strengthened their love for each other, Wiesława reciting passages from Tristan and Isolde for hours on end to her future husband on the other side of the wall.
When they got to know each other, it was Wiesława who started the contact, knocking to the other side, who's there, what are you in for, and do you have any news about what's going on the outside? She was taking a risk because you never knew. The person sitting in the other cell could technically be a communist agent that had only been placed in the cell for a day or a week, or just to investigate and try to find out these secret organizations that were being formed on the inside. It could also be an inmate who was afraid of being exposed as a person that engages in secret communication, and he could simply spill the beans and inform on the person in the other cell. So she was taking a risk when she sent that first message. Instead, she met her future husband. So the communication could go on uninterrupted for a couple of years. So they got to know each other very well through the use of Morse code. One of the ways that they passed time and probably also strengthened their own romance for each other, their own love, was that Wiesława knew the story of Tristan and Isolde by heart, by memory. Jerzy didn't know it since before, so she would more or less re-describe the entire story from page one to the last page over and over again. And prisoners could sit down, but it would still be very uncomfortable. They couldn't really spread out in the cell. But the main problem was that the floor was covered with excrement of previous prisoners, and most of the people that were put in that cell, they tried to stand up in various positions, whether some kind of squatting position or standing up but leaning over. Very few said that they took the decision to sit down. Usually they would spend around 10, 15, maybe even 24 hours in there. So they wouldn't be kept in there for weeks and months. However, there were certain exceptions, and there were cases where people were sent in there for a long time. But usually they would be sent in for a short period of time, but a pretty severe, unpleasant experience, and it could make people abstain from secret communication in the future. During their months and months of communication, though, Wiesława and Jerzy were very fortunate, as they weren't alone in their cells. They shared the cells with cellmates. Communication would take place mainly at night when the other cellmates were sleeping, but they were naturally aware of what was going on. They were simply fortunate that none of them chose to inform on them. So the communication could go on uninterrupted for a couple of years. So they got to know each other very well through the use of Morse code. One of the ways that they passed time and probably also strengthened their own romance for each other, their own love, was that Wiesława knew the story of Tristan and Isolde by heart, by memory. Jerzy didn't know it since before, so she would more or less re-describe the entire story from page one to the last page over and over again. And this was, of course, a medieval story of romance that, for them too, who were freshly in love, would probably strengthen them. So a very romantic.
Quite a feat to do it via Morse code.
Yes, it was a slow story being told. But on the other hand, they had a lot of time on their hands. So that's at least how their love story started. But there is much more to discover, which I suspect we will have to dive into in future episodes.
Well, thank you for that. That's been fascinating.
Thank you.
There we are. Even in adversity, love triumphs. And that is the message, I think, from this remarkable story. These two young people who, well, to say making the best of it is probably rather an exaggeration, but didn't let being detained in this horrible prison come between them. And as Adam said, we'll look into this story further on future episodes. But I hope you've enjoyed the story, and thank you for watching once again on Poland Daily History.